Good evening, everybody. Welcome to At the Bar With podcast. I'm Brett, your host. As always, we have on the back screen here and on the cameras, we have Patrick, who is streaming in from Sacramento. And as always, my co-host here in the studio bar is Stacy. And today we have a special guest, retired Minneapolis firefighter, Shawn, is here with us today. And say hi to everybody, Shawn.
Hello, everybody. Actually, I'm from South Metro, so South St. Paul and West St. Paul.
Oh, somebody hit a nerve already. We started. Oh my goodness!
Don't lump me in with that.
Oh, that's going to be a good question for me in a second here.
Well, you've worked at a lot of different places, so
we'll get through that.
But since we're a bar, we're going to start off with a beverage, a tasty beverage.
This is the special one. This is going to be a good one.
Patrick, what are you drinking tonight?
He gets out. I was like, "Oh crap! I forgot."
Patrick forgot his beverage. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to. It's a kind of a warm summer night, starting night. So today we're going to make margaritas.
Oh.
So for those of you that like margaritas, I make my own margarita mix, and it's a pretty simple process. You got 5 small limes, and you're going to squeeze those into a container. So you have the lime juice of that. 1 ounce of Rose's lime. This stuff right here, Rose's lime. 1 ounce of that will go in there. And then 2 cans of whatever kind of limeade that you want to use, you put in there. But it's half of what they ask you to make limeade. So it's usually 4 cans of water. You do 2 per can. And that way you can get that kind of that nice sweetness to it. So I also I get white tequila. Those for me the best margaritas are made with white tequila. You can use añejo. You can use some of the other gold tequilas, añejo. Those will work too, but I think white works better. And since we're at this and we're at the bar setting here, we're going to make top shelf margaritas. So we're going to use Cointreau. And we're going to top it with Grand Marnier. So
fancy,
fancy
very
stuff.
Fancy. So, I do the shaker method. So I put the ingredients in and shake it, and you'll see how that turns out.
And then eventually, there, Brett, we're going to have to talk to you about this Band-Aid on your finger. You'll have to tell us the story about that and why that's there, because it has to do with margarita glasses. So I think that would be a good thing.
That's why we don't have margarita glasses right now.
So when you make these, do you make them all from scratch, or do you usually make a pitcher of the mix and then add it later?
I like to make it from scratch. It's just kind of better that way. I know what I'm pouring in. It's part of the fun of doing it. So, but you can put all the ingredients together. Per drink, it's going to be 2 ounces of tequila. And it's going to be 3/4 ounce of Cointreau and then 3/4 ounce of Grand Marnier floated on top, and we're done here.
So if you're cheap and ignorant like me, that's not a bartender, has never done this, what is the best margarita mix to buy at the store? Is there a good one?
Well,
is that like sacrilege to ask a bartender?
There's quite a few good ones that are out there.
The frozen ones are pretty good.
The frozen ones are good, yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
They're fresh.
So
fresher.
Shawn, what's the best margarita place that you've had margarita at?
I like Lago Tacos and Excelsior because they're good cutting the limes and lemons in half right there and doing it. So as you order it.
Patrick, do you have any good margarita places out there?
Oh, yes. California is awesome when it comes to Mexican cuisine and drinks. So, there's, you know what? If you just go to any hole-in-the-wall taqueria joint in town, you're going to get a really good margarita. So, Fortunately, there's like 2 of them in the strip mall that's like within walking distance of my place. But
Nice.
I haven't had a margarita in a good grip, so I don't know. I'm really kind of nervous and jealous right now because I'm like, you
Watching.
bastards. But yeah, no, I actually thought about for tonight's libations for myself. I was thinking about grabbing some margarita mix and tequila, but I don't want to do that. I got to referee 3 hockey games tomorrow, and that would probably make me cramping up by the second game. So, because I'm not one to have just 1 or 2. I
But
might have to have.
But you're within walking distance. So what's
I
the
know.
problem?
I had to take a
Dang it. I'll just
30-year
watch you guys
break.
drink it tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I had to take 30 years off of tequila.
Really?
I did. My first experience with tequila was in Mexico, and it was not good tequila.
How do you not have
Oh.
good tequila in Mexico?
Jose Cuervo Gold. I mean, that's not good tequila.
They actually they sell that in Mexico.
Well, they did. They did in 1988.
Mm.
Isn't that funny? Isn't it Jose Cuervo like the cheapest tequila that you can get?
I'm pretty sure.
There's cheaper stuff than Jose Cuervo.
Oh, is there?
Yes, there are very cheap stuff out there.
And there's one with the worm in the bottom, right? Who's eating the worm? Who's eating the worm?
Not this guy. No.
No, Brett.
The
You
last
ever eating
one
the worm?
sitting at the table.
I've got a story about the worm.
They have tequila lollipops that have the worm inside.
Yeah, I've seen that before. Yeah.
Now, back when I was in spring break in 1985, we went down to South Padre Island,
You
Texas.
just dated the crap out of yourself.
I know. And we went to Mexico, and there was these street vendors, and literally they had mezcal, which is the one that's got the worm on the bottom, and they're like in bottles, and you could see that there's like wax on the top, and there's this big fat grub. I mean, you could tell that this was like they distilled this in the backyard. So I'm talking to the guy, and I'm like, well, what happens if you eat the worm on the bottom? He goes, oh man, you go to the moon. You go to the moon. And I'm like, fantastic. So we bought this bottle of mezcal and started drinking it, and lo and behold, guess who got the worm on the bottom?
You.
This guy. And I ate the worm.
Okay.
And it was like eating something that was covered in rubbing alcohol. I mean, it was just, and I don't remember much of the evening after that. I mean, it's a blur, and everybody's like, and there's pictures of me, and I was like, no, oh my God. Oh, this is so awful. I'm like, yeah, life
Did you
of the
feel like
party.
you feel like Bear Grylls eating the?
Oh, God. I woke up the next day. I think I was like halfway on the couch, halfway off. One pant leg on, one pant leg
Your
off.
car was parked in the front yard.
It's still running.
Pair of somebody's underwear on your head. You know those days. Whose underwear are these?
I don't know what kind of liquor it was, but I was at a party once, and it was a clear liquid.
Look at that.
And it might have been vodka, I'm not sure, but it had a snake's head in it, like a python.
Yes.
Have you heard of that stuff?
This is to our
That's
other
crazy.
guests.
I took a sip of it. My girlfriend was not impressed.
We had. Do you guys remember Chino Latino?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
Chino Latino had this bottle of something with like a whole snake in it. I never had it. I always wanted, like, is that for real?
I have a bottle of alcohol with a snake from Vietnam. It's got a cobra in it and 2 snakes. One's in its mouth.
Wow.
Wow.
Did you open it or did you
No,
just let
no.
it sit there?
I bought it. I bought it from it was a estate sale, and she had it. She's getting rid of it, and I'm like, I'll take that. How much you want for it? $5.
and?
Oh, okay. Awesome. Bought it.
I mean, you kind of almost have to open it.
No way. That thing's nasty looking. Big old cobra in there. You ever seen that bottle of mine? The cobra?
No.
Oh.
But
Yeah.
why have you been hiding it from
It's
me?
pretty cool.
How do you get a cobra in a bottle?
I have no idea how they do it. It's kind of like the ship in the bottle type thing.
That's weird.
They're the top.
But it's got a cobra, and it's sitting there up, and it has another snake in its mouth, and another one that's in there. So there's 3 snakes in this
So it's
bottle.
not, it's like
a
a
Vietnamese wine.
like a turducken, like the cobra ate the whatever, and then that thing ate
Yep.
whatever.
Something like that. I haven't had grandma in a long time.
Grandmama, what orange eyes you have.
So we have another special person that's not in the audience is our friend Ann, is here for support.
Gene, it's time.
It's time. What's
I've got
It's time.
By the way, I've got a
What do you got?
Sierra Nevada big little
big
thing
IPA.
I had hazy little thing last week, but this is the big little thing.
So
And,
what's
this is it's big because it's 9.5%.
oh boy.
Oh,
Is that
wow.
is that a double or a triple?
That's
That's like a
That's got to be
It's
a
like a
double
crazy-ass
IPA or a triple.
Yeah.
so much for the this, that's a 6 beer.
I think there are triples. Yes, this is probably a double IPA.
that looks like
but yeah,
orange. It's so
it is. This one's very orangey. You
Lot of-
wouldn't like it. It's a little bit more bitter than the other one I
Oh.
had last week.
high IBUs,
Big time.
Yeah.
big time.
Big
Yeah,
time.
pucker.
So now the other one that you had last week was more of like a summer ale, correct?
No, mine was it was the same thing, Sierra Nevada, but it was a hazy IPA. So it was
hazy.
kind of like it's kind of like thick. It's like if you get orange juice with pulp in it. It's kind of like that with beer. But
All right. You see, I
this
like
one's
beers
a little less
like that.
hazy, but more. But yeah, I mean, it's 100 degrees out here, and I just like I wasn't gonna drink tonight, but I'm like, fuck it, ice cold beer sounds really good tonight, so that's what I'm gonna do, and I'll just have a few of them because at 9% that's all you need.
Okay. Well, salute.
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 Cheers,
Cheers.
gentlemen and ladies.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Alrighty.
That is good tasting.
Margarita.
Margarita.
That's a really good margarita.
Good
That
margarita.
is really good.
That
Yes.
is really
I
good
like it.
margarita. Thank you.
And
thank
again,
you.
you know, the key to a good margarita is going to be that mix. And when you use that limeade, you use fresh lime juice, a little bit of that Rose's lime in there. And I use, bottled water just to make it good. Tap water kind of gives it a little tinnier flavor, but it makes the margarita very good and enjoyable. So that is the tip of the day for the beverage of the week.
So do you only salt half the glass? Or
A lot of people will salt the whole thing, but I find that's just overkill. A couple licks on that to salt it down is perfect. You don't need a whole lot. So
Don't threaten me with a good time.
now we do have an announcement. One of the members of this podcast just turned 58.
Oh, jeez. Oh, you guys.
58.
That was yesterday.
Yes, but we're doing the podcast today, so therefore, congratulations on living another year,
Making it this far?
I'd say you don't have any gray hair.
No, I don't.
No,
That's,
not that I can see.
I dealt with that. I'm really sick of this podcast. Every time I come in here, everybody's got hair except me.
Yeah, but
it's like he just invites everybody with hair just to do something.
You save a lot of product, though. I mean, you're ready like that,
yeah,
right?
exactly. I don't have pillow hair anymore. I do. What's really funny is if anybody knows what phantom limb is, when somebody loses their arm, they still feel like they have an arm.
yeah.
I have phantom hair because when I ride my motorcycle, it feels like my hair is actually blowing in the wind, and it's awesome. It's like the greatest thing ever. So,
Well, we've got a little something special for you.
wow,
You
really?
can put it right up here. And happy birthday.
Well, thank you guys.
Happy birthday.
And so we're going to do a little song here. We're going to wait till Gene gets back on it. Here's your cupcake.
Awesome. Well,
Ready?
thank you guys so much.
All right. Happy birthday, Gene.
Happy birthday, Mr. Stacy. Oh, happy birthday to you.
All right.
That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right.
What's really funny is that normally I don't celebrate birthdays during, after, we get to that age where it's like only the fives and the zeros are celebrated. It's like everything else, like, yeah.
Thank you.
But yesterday was a great day. I was like, I didn't expect it.
What did you do on your birthday?
We went out to Champs out in Inver Grove Heights.
Eden Prairie.
Eden Prairie. In the bowl that Shawn calls it. And
the bubble.
The bubble. Oh, the bubble.
The bubble.
And then saw a band that a friend of mine plays in. A friend of ours plays in. Bill Freeds.
Bill Freeds?
Yep. Paul Christensen.
Oh, Paul. Yeah.
I'm
PC.
sorry. I don't know why I said
PC.
that.
I know
PC Paul.
Everybody knows Paul. Everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, so Paul is in a band called Swag. They play some good music. It was good. It was fun. It was such a beautiful day out yesterday, and had some appetizers and enjoyed the night.
All right.
And just like old people, we're done by 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were. That was.
So do I make a wish here?
Ooh.
What'd you wish for?
He wished for hair.
Yes, I wish for hair.
Not only is he a client,
I wish for peace and humanity among everybody. Ah.
These look really good, Gene.
she made him herself.
Did you really?
No, she
With
didn't.
my eyeballs.
Well, so Shawn, let me pull my chair up here.
Yeah.
How was the margarita?
It's fantastic.
Excellent.
It
I
does
didn't
not
get
bring
one.
back bad memories, so it's good.
I didn't get one.
So, Shawn,
Did you want one? Okay. So Shawn,
Yes.
how many years were you a firefighter?
About 30 altogether. I did 20 years as a volunteer, and then I did 25 years as a career firefighter.
Now, what's the difference between being a volunteer and career? Is there any difference?
Money.
Money? Other than the money.
A volunteer or a paid on call, you do actually get some money, but you're not actually housed at the fire station. You have a pager.
Okay.
You get a call. You need to respond to the station and then go to the call. So you're not at the station all the time.
so are you like extra help if you're short, or do on-call people always go?
Know what? If you're a paid on call model, there are no full-time people there.
Mm-hmm.
So you are the firefighting force. It's just you get called when they need you. And it's pretty common around here now for what they call a duty crew model. So a good way to look at it is almost like a part-time firefighter. They're not paying you. You are getting paid hourly, but you're not getting benefits and things like that.
Okay. A way to skate that. So when it comes to firefighting and the police force, are they pretty similar with like recruitment and how you going out and doing the job, or how are they similar? How are they different?
Well, they're different because, firefighters are first in our hearts, but second on scene.
Okay.
What that means is that, firefighters are the real heroes. Absolutely. We get there, we try to make the scene clear so firefighters can go in and do their job. And they're the ones that are the big protectors out there. So when it comes to police, we have to do a completely kind of different setup than these guys do. For us, we're kind of dealing more with, a bunch of different issues. It could be we're going to a call where, baby's not breathing, car accident, stuff like that. So what we're doing is we're preparing the scene so guys like Shawn can come in and take care of business right from the get-go. They don't have to worry about anything but taking care of what needs to be taken care of.
And you guys watch their backs as you guys are in,
Yeah,
right? And set up perimeter and all that
So
stuff.
We're their assistants.
Assistants. So
There was a great show on NBC a year or two ago, and it was an actual. It was like four or five LA firehouses that they followed. So it was kind of like Cops, where they had a camera, but they told the story of, the guy that's been there 30 years and he was about to retire, and then his son came on, but they legit followed him out on calls. And so like they're in Compton, and sometimes the cops weren't even there to protect anybody. These firefighters are like in the middle of a gang shootout practically. And they would arrive on scenes and people would gather and there was no crowd control. And I just felt awful. So, I mean, I guess I'm talking, deep down in the heart of LA, Compton and all of that. But the show was just fascinating to watch. And I enjoyed it. It had about 9 episodes to it. And my daughter got into it. And now she wants to be like a 911 dispatcher and something other like that. But yeah, it was just really cool. It was a really good look into what actually goes on.
It's very unique. Is on the volunteer side or the paid on call side, very much like he said, police get there first. They're already there. They're working. They're in their squads. But on my career department, even more so after COVID, law enforcement didn't show up to a lot of our calls, and they were busy, but during the COVID thing, they were trying to minimize exposure. And just with everything that's changed in the public safety community, more so law enforcement, but it affected all of us, is the mental health calls. What we became very used to was having police on scene first to make it code 4 or to make sure that things were safe as far as they knew, and that really changed. Is we got very comfortable with the law enforcement presence there before us, and they kind of started to step away from that, and we didn't like that so much. Is we had to go in there, and then if we saw a problem, then we called law enforcement for help. So the roles changed. Law enforcement would respond and we would stage or just wait down the block until they said, okay, come in. And towards the end of my career, we went in and the police officer staged just down the block and waited if we needed them. So it evolved, and it's constantly evolving. It's very different. I have to be honest and say I'm glad that I'm retired now, because the job has changed so much.
Because of that time, or what? I mean,
I think there's that, and the call volume is very different. California is a very different state when it comes to fire protection as opposed to us. In Minnesota, for the longest time, up until a couple of years ago, Bloomington, where the Mall of America is, that was a completely volunteer fire department. And now in the last 3 years, I think, maybe a little bit longer, but right around 3 years, they're making that move to, they are now a combination department, but I would assume shortly that the goal is to become a completely career department. It's hard to find people that can do this or want to do this. On the volunteer side, they will hire you without any experience, and then you need to get the training. But you have your other job, your life, your kids, and if you're lucky, for example, on my volunteer department, Apple Valley, it was 6 months before you were actually able to take a call. And
Really?
I had a medical background already, because we'll talk about my law enforcement stuff, because I made the right move a long time ago.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Well, he asks the difference is when you start in law enforcement at the police department, sheriff's department, what do you get issued?
sidearm.
A bulletproof vest and a gun. When you start at the fire department, you get 2 sheets and a pillow.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just saying there is a difference.
Yeah.
For a while, prior to 5 years ago, firefighters, at least in the suburbs, we made more than police officers. We work 112 hours a pay period as opposed to 80.
Yeah.
So when you balance that out over the year, we work 2,900 hours a year.
Right.
and then overtime and training and whatnot. So it is a good deal.
How many vacation days do they throw in there?
Well, when I left, I was maxed out, so I would get 12 holidays and 12 vacation days, 24-hour shifts. And on average, you work 10 24-hour shifts a month. So 2.5 months off.
So you were a volunteer firefighter first. What did you do? Was that all you did, or did you have another job in there that you were working?
Well, I worked for Hennepin County. I had started as a medical center protection officer at HCMC. I should back up. When I was in high school, the career counselor said, "What are you going to do when you get out of school? What kind of job do you want?" And my parents were divorced, but long story short, my dad almost got laid off. And I wanted a cool job. I didn't want to get laid off. And I said I was going to work for a fire department, a police department, or work in a grocery store. And then the career counselor goes, "Where did that come from?" And this was the first time I got detention because I said, "Nobody wants to be a fucking farmer." And my godparents were dairy farmers, and that's a 24/7, 365 job, like for your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
But long story short, when I was going to school for law enforcement, I did work at Cub.
Mm-hmm.
And so I worked in a grocery store. I worked in law enforcement. I worked on fire trucks. I dispatched a little bit, and I worked on an ambulance. So I did it all.
Yeah,
I never got laid off.
You're one of the few people that I've met that literally has done it all. Has done law enforcement, has done security, who's done been a paramedic, who's been a firefighter. I mean, literally, you've done the whole gambit. That's one of the reasons why I really wanted to have you on the show, is because you've experienced all those things. You know, you have cops that have done cop things and they've never done, firefighting things or paramedic things, or you have paramedics that's all they've done and haven't done fire, but you've kind of done the gambit. Now, out of all those things that you've done, what are the things that you have loved the most within your job?
It made you go to work
and say, "Yep, you know what? This is the reason why I'm doing this."
Last week in your podcast, you talked about, I can't believe you get paid to do this.
Right.
And it started that way. But towards the end, I was tired.
Yep.
I liked the job. I liked the fact that, I'm not a big touchy-feely kind of person, like, I wanted to make the world a better place, but I didn't make it a worse place. I got compensated well. I got a fair amount of time off.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably the biggest thing is I got involved in teaching, and teaching public safety people, because like you said, what do you think of EMS? Do you like it?
Well, and I'll tell you.
Providing it. Like, I'm sure you like the providers, but do you like doing it?
For me, I kind of do, because I went through the process, first responder, EMT, did those things, but I stayed in law enforcement. The difference for me is you guys do a lot more for the individual. For us, we're a lot more. We have to make decisions that are quick, and a lot of decisions we make for a lot of people, they're not popular decisions.
Correct.
I liked law enforcement, or went from that perspective to a law enforcement perspective, because I wanted to go in a kind of a different direction. I wanted to be able to do a few things that were different that the agency that I work for offered. So, working with homeless people, working with community involvement, doing those things, and trying to get in there and trying to change the perception, because the perception of law enforcement just got worse as the years went by that I was in it. And when I first started doing law enforcement, it was because I wanted to be outside. I hated the four walls when I was a bartender. People would have to come and see me if we wanted to hang out, they'd come and see me at the bar while I'm working. And that's how we hung out. So my whole social structure was based around my bartending. And I hated that. That's the one thing I hated. I hated the four walls because I didn't know what was going on outside, and I wanted to be out there and I wanted to do something. But I was kind of torn between going from an EMT to paramedic or becoming a police officer. And I went to the police officer because my brother is a cop. I've got family.
You wanted to carry a gun.
No, it wasn't
That's
it.
a good part. It's a fun part.
It's, that wasn't it. It was, by the time I looked at it, it was nickels and dimes.
Right.
And that was the pension. What am I going to be making? Am I going to be able to?
So you're forecasted to see what you're going to.
Right. And I looked at it and how is it? And quite frankly, it was easier to become a police officer than a firefighter.
Yeah, there's more of you. There's more opportunity.
So I mean, when it comes down to it, I was weighing this stuff out, and they were pretty close. They're a little bit more for police officer, but you know what? It was easier to become a cop. It was so much more difficult to become a firefighter. You really had to physically be fit, and I could pass all the police tests, but I'll tell you, I took some of the firefighting tests, and holy smokes.
Big difference?
Big difference. I mean, it's tough. It was really tough. And for the guys that, become firefighters, Shawn, my hat's off to you, because it's a lot tougher. You have to put in a lot more work and have a lot more invested in it. So it's not that I was that I couldn't become one. It was that.
Seems you probably have to be more physically fit too, correct?
Well, you have to be physically fit in both aspects, but if you are pulling somebody out of a house,
yeah,
they're heavy.
But you have to. I mean, I've seen cops that let themselves go a little bit, after time on the.
So I mean, it's different physically. I mean, it wasn't the physical fitness thing. It was a lot more difficult. There were so many more people that were showing up for a firefighter's exam. You go in and there's literally 600 people. And then I would go to a police officer exam and there's 250, 300 people. It was like half the people. So I just kind of went, I got a better shot at getting this. So I kind of went in that direction. And I'm glad I did. I don't know if I would have had the chops to be a firefighter, but I definitely had the chops to be a cop. So again, my hat's off to people that go in that field.
People don't even realize that it's so funny, but and it seems like everybody gives a lot more respect to firefighters than they do police officers these days. It seems like to me.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
After 9/11, especially, it was all firefighters, the biggest heroes that and I get that, but at the same time, cops aren't respected. So even between 9/11 and George Floyd, there was a level of respect there. But I think since George Floyd, now everyone can flip off a police officer and tell them to go to hell and get pissed off at every cop they see. And it's just that's really kind of tragic, honestly. But
it's
I agree.
Tough with, like he said, as a police officer, a lot of times you are making decisions that are unpopular. How do you sell somebody on jail time? That's usually not a fun thing. And one of the reasons why I got out of it, there's resolution when I go on a call for the most part. As a police officer, there's not a lot of resolution. You're dealing with the symptom that's presented with you right now, but then there's adjudication, the whole court process, whether or not that happens, and people are released on bail, and that problem may not be gone. And if you're injured, I'm going to take care of you and get you to the hospital, and things get better from there. Unless they don't.
Right.
That makes sense.
If your house is on fire, it will be out when I leave. It may not be in the shape you want it in, but it is going to be out. if you get in that car accident, you are going to be out of the car when I leave.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was a little bit easier. And like I said, I got into teaching is when I asked the question originally is, do you like EMS? Most police officers don't. When fire or EMS gets there, can we go? Are you good?
Yeah.
And
and it's so true. When you guys show up to a scene, we're all like we're standing around with our thumbs up our butt because we don't know what you know. And we're like, for me, when paramedics show up, I feel like I'm the third man out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. I'm just standing around looking stupid. So a lot of times we're like, well, we're going to get to the next caller. You guys good. But that's part of the thing. We don't know what they know.
Mm-hmm.
And
so we rely on you guys.
This is a great question that we got the perfect people in the room for this. So I've always wondered, do police officers, they're usually first on the scene, right? Like Brett said, but do all of them have EMS training, or is there some sort of liability to like, I'm just a cop, I'm not going to fuck with this injury right now because I can get sued or something? Like, how does it work?
It's odd in Minnesota to get licensed as a peace officer in the state of Minnesota. At the time of your licensure, you do need to be an EMR, emergency medical responder, or an EMT to get your license. Yep. But in order
so does that just entail like basic CPR and
no, it's
tourniquet stuff?
First responder.
It's EMR. It's not first responder anymore. So EMR is, these days it's about 55 hours of training. It does include CPR, but it's a little bit more in depth. EMT right now is a couple hundred hours.
Yep.
And there is no requirement in the state of Minnesota to maintain that once you're licensed. So most everybody has had a taste, but a lot of agencies didn't continue with it. And some agencies mandate it, and even more so after George Floyd. And when I got into teaching EMS, I was asked or tasked with teaching police officers first, because back then they didn't care for it. It wasn't their primary job, and cops are built different. They are. Not in a bad way, but it takes a special kind of person to do that. It's helpful if you understand their mindset. If you've been there, you've done it. And part of what made me a good teacher was they weren't able to jerk me around and play the game because I understood it. And what I knew was how to play the game and get them to get buy-in. Is, you know what, maybe you don't want to take care of this icky person, whatever. I get that. But what if your partner gets hurt? What if you're hanging out at home with your family at a picnic and they go down? And then when you get the buy-in like that, and then I work for HCMC. I've worked for HCMC for 31 years. And that's what I do, is teach Minneapolis Fire, a lot of the suburbs and stuff. And what I do is try to get medics to understand what fire does, get fire to understand what the medics do, get cops to understand what the medics do, and kind of get them. So like he said, you're not standing around doing nothing. Is, I want to bring that ambulance to your training. I'm going to show you where everything is. I'm going to keep showing it to you. So when I have that call and I'm like, hey, I need to go to the truck and get this, that you can actually go to the truck and come back with it before I have a birthday, and you have the right thing.
Yeah, and that's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant.
Can you break down something? I've actually had all these questions in my mind for years, but what's the difference between, like, sometimes an ambulance shows up, sometimes a fire engine shows up. There's paramedics, there's EMTs, EMRs, like you just said, EMS. What's the different level? Because I've heard some of those ambulance people just make $20 an hour. Like, they're just minimum wage.
Sure.
They only perform certain things,
if you're
when a
straight,
fire truck shows up, they've got more to do than just a paramedic. Like, can you break that down?
So an EMR is an emergency medical responder. And what an EMR does is basic life support, bleeding control, CPR.
Now, you said that changed from first responder. It used to be, and then it changed?
It did, because first responder became a generalized term after September 11th, that a cop is a first responder, a firefighter is a first responder, paramedics a first responder. So that used to
truck
be
drivers even.
a medical certification. So they said emergency medical responder because that's EMS. So that's a basic level. And to put it bluntly, in EMR, as you go there, we tell you what the skills are, and you do that skill because I told you to. I'm not telling you why you do it. If you see this, this is what you do. That's it. EMT takes a little bit farther, where you get the pathophysiology, what's happening in the body. You're doing the same skills that an EMR was doing, but you know why you're doing them and what other things might happen. And then at the EMT level, you can administer some drugs, start IVs, do some other stuff. When you get to the paramedic level, it's all of that and more. Than it's cardiology, learning how to read a cardiac strip, actually defibrillate somebody, not an AED, but a manual defibrillator. And then drugs, pain meds, cardiac meds, things like that. So
I grew up on shows like Chips and Emergency, and so I'm definitely dating myself now too. But yeah, I was just fascinated by those. Rampart. Start them with 6 cc's of whatever and saline, like and they had a doctor.
What does CHIPS stand for?
California Highway Patrol.
So,
but then they put the I and the S in there.
What's the I for?
For fun.
Just to make it a
a
usable
word.
acronym.
You have to have acronyms in public safety, otherwise it's
You
not,
could
not
affectionately
cool.
call a chip here. Like it's they have chips for kids every it's their Santa toy gathering for kids every winter. But CHPs are badass out here. That's a whole nother level that we can unpack. But you see what they do. They're probably a little bit more than like what the state patrol does. Like I see like California Highway Patrol out here. They are on motorcycles. They are on horses. They're on bicycles. And I work at a very, very, I would say, sensitive area of downtown, which is right by the Capitol. And they're there on every corner. I feel very safe going down there because it's a target if someone wanted to do something like that. But I feel like the California Highway Patrol, they're like sheriff, state trooper, cop. Like they do everything, and they have SWAT teams, and they've got they're just. I think I'm just saying this because I'm in California, but they're probably the best of the best if you think about ranking law enforcement in states of what they have to deal with.
Anna and I got pulled over by a patrol officer on a motorcycle when we were in LA.
They don't play either. They usually don't give you a warning.
It was only for bad tabs, though.
Well, if somebody asked me if I was a Chips, I'd say no, I'm Norwegian.
So, hey, Shawn. So, and this to you too, Brett. It seems that there's a lot of different avenues that you can go. If you become a firefighter, there's multiple jobs within the firefighting field, right?
Oh, the list is huge. So, shortly after September 11th, FEMA resources, the teams that you see that go all over the world when there's a hurricane or an earthquake, the closest FEMA team for us at that time, I'm trying to think because I don't even know if Indianapolis team was up and running yet. Probably coming out of Texas or something like that. And the state of Minnesota said, we have a big hole. And Dakota County, which is where both my departments were located, wanted to start a county-wide specialized rescue team because it's expensive to do it for one agency. And as Dakota County was starting to form this team, the state of Minnesota said, we need to form a team. And they put out an RFP, a request for proposals. Who wants to be part of this team? What do you bring to the table? And Minneapolis Fire, St. Paul Fire, Rochester Fire, and Edina were granted it. And then the newly formed Dakota County Special Operations Team was. So I was a member of that team for 15 years, one of the originals. And we were hazmat specialists, rope rescue specialists, confined space specialists, trench rescue, hazmat, just all of the weird rescue stuff that you could think of. So you add all that to your plate. And what the role of this team was to respond to the county team, obviously the county, but if the state needed you or something happened, then we would respond within the state. And I think that was probably about 3 years just to get all of the training, because very much like the medical training, there's an awareness level, which is like 40 hours. Then there's an operations level, which is like 80 hours. And then there's a technician level, which is like 120 hours, but you had all of these different disciplines. And then so you're dealing with that. But then on my current department, they decided we merged. South St. Paul and West St. Paul merged. West St. Paul had nothing in it. It was just a city, hydrants everywhere, streets. Then you merge with South St. Paul. You've got railroad tracks. You've got the river. You have an airport.
Right.
You have industrial stuff. So then we became aircraft firefighters. We all had to become rescue swimmers because we covered the river.
Right.
You're starting now. You're going into the different variables of the city. Okay, cool.
And then, so in addition to all that medical training and the fire training and the technical rescue, they make you be a swimmer.
Oh, okay.
And then, with my law enforcement background, I got into fire investigation. And then I was inspections.
That's what I was going to say. What about arson? That seems like the most intriguing thing to me. Is like, how do you figure out how this fire started, and then how do you catch them?
Don't tell him. Don't tell him.
No.
There's some things I want to do in the experiment.
Honestly, it starts with being a firefighter for a long time, is because you need to learn the job.
Right.
And
I was going to say,
Right,
most
yeah.
arsonists, former firefighters.
a lot of them are.
That's actually true.
And
Yeah.
Oh my God.
and they're the ones that get caught because they haven't been good enough to not get caught. There's, all those classes in school that you said, oh, well, I want to be a cop or I'm going to be a fireman. I don't need to know physics and all. Guess what?
Yeah.
Math, physics, science, all that stuff I said I was never going to use. Fractions, formulas,
Oh, yeah.
I used them.
So you can so you're a baseline firefighter or a baseline police officer. Then you can take classes whenever you want to. I want to do this or I want to do that. Is that your choice, or do they say, hey, you're doing this class or you're doing this certification or you're doing this?
The specialized rescue and all that stuff, that was a choice. Fire investigation, it was a choice, but I was highly encouraged with my background.
But didn't you
Was
teach people to be firefighters? You were like,
I did for a while. On my paid on call department, I trained people to be firefighters a lot of time. Their basic training, but then I got more into the EMS stuff when active shooter stuff came out, and you probably heard the term 3 Echo.
Oh yeah.
And that
what's
was
that term mean?
that was enter, eliminate, evacuate, or something to that.
Enter. Yeah. It's
Get in the problem, deal with the problem, and get the people out.
and get everybody out. Yep.
But what now they call it a hostile event.
Yep.
Basically is the best way to do it. So when you have the 35W bridge collapse was even a good example of that. How do you get police, fire, and EMS to work together and play nice? I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of type A personalities going on there.
Yep.
Say it as it's so.
How do you get all those type A's to still be type A but play nice? And when you have a hostile event, you look at the different aspects. When I got in law enforcement, incident command training was if they had a gold badge or stripes on their sleeves, that's who you listen to.
Right.
And in the fire service, which actually came from California, is you guys have wildfires out there once in a while. Did you know that?
Yeah,
Okay.
on occasion. I think half of LA just burned.
Right.
That's
But
not
yeah.
fun.
And they're kind of big. So and when you look at it, the state of California said, firefighters and soldiers are very similar because your opponent can be very large, widespread, and fast moving, and you need to adapt to that all the time. So California came out with a system, an incident command system.
Interesting. You like fighting a battle.
To deal with having multiple resources over a wide area working for a combined goal. And that was the incident command system.
Right.
And in the fire service, you're taught the incident command system from day one. And then after September 11th, the incident command system, now if you work for any form of government, you have to take these classes called like IS 100 and IS 700, which is to give you an understanding of what the incident command system is and to understand what your role and the overall objective is.
Now, the thing is, I didn't have any of that experience until I became a sergeant. Once I became a sergeant, then I had to do the incident command stuff, 100, 300, 700, and those things. And when I was taking the class, it's like, wow, if our officers would do well to know the same kind of things. Not that they would be an incident command, but to know the process of it. And it was very intricate and detailed, and a lot of paperwork. You have to have all your ducks in a row.
That's why the firefighters are better at it.
Oh yeah. I'll be honest with you, 100%.
But it's kind of funny is because a lot of your incident command classes, probably some of your instructors were fire people.
Right.
And so getting back to a multi-agency deal, an active shooter deal, when the cops get there, they're going in.
Yep.
So when we get there, we're waiting for them to tell us that we can go in and do some things, but we start to set up the incident command system, and then that's where the problem runs in, is you get some police officers going, well, I'm not taking orders from a firefighter. We're not giving you orders. We're getting the system in place.
Right.
So when somebody with a lot of stripes or a gold badge shows up, we have the system started so they can go in there and start making decisions, but we all work together. And it seems like such a complex thing when you take those classes and you've never had them. But when you look at it, it just starts with defining the problem.
Right.
So if you have an active shooter, what problems do you have in a school?
Well, and the biggest problem you have is the active shooter. That's the person you have to eliminate or actually stop the threat.
Sure.
So whether you want to call it stop the threat or eliminate that threat, that's what you do.
So
that's the number one thing. It's the only thing that a cop has on his mind.
So you have the bad guy. You just said you have potential victims. If it's a school, I have parents to deal with. I have media that wants information. I need to get injured people out. I need to get injured people to the hospital. And what you need to do is figure out what are all my problems and who solves each one of those problems. Cop's job is, I'm going to get the bad guy. Okay. Cop's jobs are, I'm going to secure this. Nobody's coming in. Nobody's coming out. Fire is going, we're going to get these people out to a point, triage them, get them picked up. EMS is going to come and take them to the hospital. And once you define that, you put the right people in place. And then being in charge isn't so bad because you pick the people that are best for each thing, and then you let it happen.
And that's the whole thing. Yes, I've got to say that firefighters, EMS, do a better job at defining the roles that need to be defined than police officers. Not that police officers are just grunts that go on there,
We have
but that's the thing.
Problem.
But that's what you're doing though. Is your thing is the threat.
But
you're
that's
assessing the threat.
But that's the thing. We have to go in where the people are running out. We're running in, and we're trying to assess. We're trying to get people out of the way because we need to eliminate that threat. So fire and
the people
EMS,
running out actually might be the threat.
It could be. Yeah, that's exactly
Who's the
correct.
threat? Yep. How many threats are there?
So we have to go in there and make sure that things are safe. And it's a very dynamic situation. We used to really train hard, at least a couple times a year, on active shooter scenarios. And we'd go in there, and it was probably the most stressful time as a police officer for me, was just that. Although in the back of your mind, this isn't for real. What you're getting hit with aren't bullets; they're paint pellets. But the stress of it, because when you get into that situation, you're viewing it as the real deal.
Right. Go ahead.
Shawn, I wanted to ask you something more specific. When I was a kid, were you ever a member of the investigations of some of the bigger events? I remember as a kid, like the TCF building burnt down downtown, or the Gold Mill flour was like lit on fire by homeless. Is there some events that you were a part of that we might remember that were large in scale?
Not a lot of significant fires that we dealt with that I investigated. A lot of that was Minneapolis. But kind of getting back to this active shooter stuff is we were actually conducting some training in West St. Paul. So I worked for West St. Paul, and we had like Mendota Heights and Inver Grove Heights and South St. Paul, and we're all training in Mendota Heights, doing active shooter training. And during our training, everybody's pager went off for an officer-involved shooting.
Oh my God!
And that was one officer, Scott Patrick from Mendota Heights, was shot and killed on a traffic stop. And he was in my class like a day or two before, but we were all there when it happened. And when you think of things that really put it all in perspective, when everybody's got to work together and stuff, that is always a story that you can tell, especially when you start talking about EMS and trying to get buy-in on some officers that aren't real keen on EMS. That's why you do it. That was probably one of the biggest things. I mean, we had some neat fires. There's just so many. Coming here, I was trying to think of it, and I think your guest last week kind of hit on it, is when you retire, some of that just gets filed away. And I'm sure on the way home, it'll come back up and you're like, oh yeah, there was that one. And there was that one.
Right.
Yep.
He talked about Murderapolis. So 1995 was the peak year in Minneapolis. I want to say it was like 95 or 96 homicides that year.
Yeah, that was
and
crazy.
And I was working security at ECMC. And for listeners that don't, HCMC is the level 1 trauma center in downtown Minneapolis, Hennepin County Medical Center. That's where people go when they get shot.
Yep.
You saw so much there in that year. People shot, people stabbed, officers hurt. It just changed.
Did they ever equate that to anything specific?
Heat.
I think it was a Chicago.
Heat.
I think it was a Chicago Minneapolis gang connection where they were.
It was a big one, yeah.
Yeah, they
going
were.
Back and forth.
Was like there was a connection of between Chicago and Minneapolis, between a gang or rival gangs. That's what my memory. That's what I think. But yeah, and I think it was also. It was easier to get like welfare in Minnesota, so if people were coming up here, getting on welfare and then doing their business, and so I think it was something like that. It was they were scamming the state of Minnesota while also
and
had
that
this
was
connection of drugs and whatever they were
right,
running.
and that was back during the day that people from Chicago were coming up and using aunts, grandmas, their addresses, and then they would go ahead and do that, and all you need to do is have a 2-year residency, so they'd come up and claim that's where they lived. And then after that,
they get paid every month. They take off, and they come back in a month.
And they would just
money.
come up and get their money and go back down. So every month they would come up, get their money, and then go back down. And I remember that. That was kind of a really big deal back in the day.
Crack was a big thing then, and it was inexpensive. And
I remember I could get a rock for like what was it? No, I'm just kidding.
It changed a lot, and then September 11th changed a lot of things. Then you had COVID. You had the George Floyd thing, because that affected everybody in the Twin Cities.
It seemed like it started in the 90s with Rodney King, didn't it, in California, when Reginald Denny got pulled out of his semi.
That's true.
That stuff. Yep.
And
one of the things that I think is probably more stressful for firefighters, kind of like it is for police officers nowadays, is you're probably responding to a lot of ODs, like a lot, like a
Oh,
lot.
a,
Like that's what I've heard. Like,
a ton. And what was very different with my career department is it was two cities, and they merged, and it was a city hall complex. So it was the city hall, the police station, the fire station. So both my stations were connected to the police station. One of the things he talked about was how he thought, law enforcement was this and fire was this. As a firefighter, I went to the exact same calls that I went to as I did in law enforcement, but my role was different. It was the same people. It was the same thing. The feeling was there,
same
but
types of towns, same
but-
types of situations,
but
right?
the other thing-
repeat offenders and things like that.
that I could do is kind of throw my buddies under the bus, and they knew I would do it. Because it's like I need law enforcement there to make sure things are secure. But I know sometimes that I've got a difficult patient and I don't like the cops, and I have to use that to my advantage. I'm like, look, I'm not a cop, so you can tell me. I can do this. It's okay. I'm not one of them.
I
I'm
need
with
to
you.
know how much you took
Yep.
and
but,
what you took.
But it was weird. And the first time you did it, you just felt dirty for doing it, but you had to get the job done. And your buddies understood it. And you're like, you know what? If I can find some commonality with him, like we both don't like the cops, just so I can get the job done, you did it. And I think that was a hard thing. But yeah, the overdose stuff,
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How many lives do you think you've saved in your career?
not as many as you see on TV. Honestly, maybe 24 in 30 years, if that.
Well,
But I'd like to say that maybe
Have you ever
By-
have you ever followed up with any of the survivors?
a couple. Earlier on, there was kind of a neat call that we had. Well, not neat for the patient, but a building contractor was going to some supply house, some lumber yard or something in St. Paul. And he'd been going there for quite some time. And he was in line, and apparently he just dipped out. He took off. But the person working the counter knew him and had a relationship with this guy for quite some time. And he ended up calling 911, and it was St. Paul, and it got transferred to West St. Paul. And he said, hey, our client was in here. He looked really, really bad. He just left. I'm worried about him. Can you check on him? So they got all the information, and our dispatcher literally called this guy on the phone, and the guy's talking to him, and all of a sudden he's like, and he had a heart attack on the phone talking to the dispatcher.
Wow.
And we got there because we were already on our way. Because one of the first things he told the dispatcher, he goes, well, I was having a little bit of chest pain. He just sent us. So we were already on the way. This guy had a heart attack, and we shocked him. And it was like TV. It's never like TV. We shocked him once, and this guy woke up right away. Like, what happened? What's going on? So that one was pretty cool because that's how it's supposed to work, but it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, they only get the good stuff on TV. So when you, what I'm understanding is that every call that is called, is there any calls that you don't go to that Brett would go to, or vice versa?
Well, that's the difference. Is as law enforcement, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but they're the hammer.
Mm-hmm.
They're the enforcement part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm supposed to be part counselor, part plumber, part electrician, part brain surgeon, part orthopedist, part race car driver. And
Right.
you have to know a little bit about a lot.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
It's.
So do you guys have any rivalries between fire departments or
Between
within
fire
your-
department? Well, we do with the cops all the time because we play them in hockey and kick
Yeah, I was
their
gonna
ass.
say you guys have like annual softball and hockey tournaments, right? And yeah, I agree. I think the firefighters totally would kick their ass in hockey.
Thank you.
I'll tell you what else they kick our ass in hockey. It's not just hockey; it's barbecue as well.
It's the fun
They have a station
ribbing.
house. They cook. They know.
And and that's the other thing that changed right around a little bit before George Floyd thing is police departments are always secure. Our buddies used to come over, the cops used to come over and eat with us and stuff. And that kind of got poo-pooed. And that came from up top. That didn't come from us. And it's like, we're all on the same page. I mean, when I retired, there was just as many cops at my retirement than fire guys, which was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Just simple stuff. And, they'd always make comments, oh gosh, your car's so clean. And I'm like, well, you picked the wrong job. Yes, I do get to wash it in the station. And then he's like,
I was going to ask that.
He's like, oh, I hurt my knee because I tripped chasing this guy. And I'm like, yeah, I hurt my back because I had my sleep number too high on my bed the other night.
You should have said my back hurts because I've been carrying you guys all week.
I got hurt sleeping at work. Who gets to say that?
I referenced that show earlier, and what I noticed about that documentary on NBC that I saw, there's a genuine family atmosphere in those firehouses. Is it? I think cops they're definitely like a brotherhood, but some of them have. I don't know. I'm just imagining here, but can you expand on is there a different kind of camaraderie between firefighters and cops, and is it because you spend so much time together?
I think that
in
is
a house with a shitty bed.
It's a team. It seems like a team.
It's a frat house without the alcohol because you're not supposed to drink at work.
Okay, you said they gave you a pillow, 2 pillows and a blanket, right?
Or 2 sheets and a pillow.
2 sheets and a pillow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did they give you a pole?
Well, Station 2 did have 2 poles.
They do have
and they were removed now because they're not safe.
So you're professional.
No, I'm sure that was there ever a birthday party where the pole was used for not firefighter purposes?
No
Patrick,
comment.
You need to take a 3-minute time out, Patrick.
No, I'm sure shit like that goes on. The shenanigans, right? He's not going to say, but come on, that's what I'm thinking. It could have happened.
It is totally a family atmosphere because you do live together, with these people.
So who makes the best chili? I do.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Because this one firehouse on the show, they had a barbecue, like what Brett said too. They who makes the best barbecue, and so they actually had this rookie. She had to make ribeye steaks with baked potato and salad to get them to okay, yeah, you're good.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Shit like that goes on.
The most stressful thing when you're newly hired is that first meal you need to make.
Oh, I bet.
So that is a tradition, right? It's a tradition.
And it is great. You know what? You don't have to be an awesome cook. You need to know how to make 3 or 4 things well. And if those are the only 3 or 4 things you make because of the rotation,
for a bunch of
people, you're good.
Yeah, for a bunch of people.
Yeah. Steak, baked potatoes. That's what I would do.
But I mean, when I got hired, it was very different because, like he said before, there wasn't as many fire jobs. So competition was big. And we had to have experience. So I was on both fire departments together for 17 years. So I was on I was a firefighter all day at work, and then I'd go home and I was still a firefighter. And that's what you did. Well, then pretty soon all your friends are firefighters. And then you forget your regular friends that have normal jobs with weekends off and things like that. And that was a big thing. My last year, I got on a really unique shift that one week I worked Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and the other week I worked Tuesday, Thursday. So I had weekends off for a whole year, and they were always 3-day weekends. And then I got to reconnect with my normal friends because you do need to hang out with some people that do something else other than you do.
And I think that there's a lot to be said about that. Because, I mean, for me, I've got my work friends that I'm really close to, and we are besties, if you want to call it that. We're close, and we protect each other at work. But then, when it's time to go home, you might text.
In the office, like paper clips, paper cuts, things like that? Or
no, out on the street. Out on the street. So, you have that camaraderie that you're talking about on the street. You're there for everybody's calls. You're making sure that you're available and that you're backing your partners up. So you have that. And you guys have really good conversations, really deep conversations, but then I go home.
Right.
And it's like, I might get a text here and there, but it's not like we go to the bar after work and throw down a few beers and, complain about the day's problems. But when I come home, I forget, I compartmentalize things.
Yes.
I take things and I leave them at work. And when I come home, it's home life. And it's my regular friends and stuff like that. So I don't really think about a lot of the things that happen during the day. If I'm asked about, hey, how was your day? What happened? I'd have to sit there and think. And I'm like, oh yeah, there was that guy that, got run over by the train, something you would definitely remember, but you sit there and it's like, oh yeah, that happened.
Was that the day you wanted me to make hamburger?
Wow.
No. But things of that nature, there's kind of the things that somebody would look at as a big deal, which are a big deal. But when I leave the office, when I leave work, I got to leave that stuff at work. And I come home.
You can't, you have to try and leave some of the worst parts of you, if that's what you want to call it,
right,
at work.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's hard to talk about some of the things that you've seen to somebody else that doesn't understand it, because they're just going to ask more questions because they generally want to know, and that just annoys you and makes you mad.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't really want to talk about it anymore. But when you're talking to somebody that was there with you or understands it, it's easier to talk about it. And I think that's probably one of the weirdest things in retirement is I don't miss the calls. I went on enough.
Right.
But like you said, I don't talk to those guys every day. Now, some of the guys I talk to every day, whatever, we talk like every couple, 3 weeks. We're still friends, but you don't see each other all the time.
Mm-hmm. And the last thing you guys want to talk about is what you did at work. I mean, it's like,
and
I want to talk about the baseball game or whatever.
And so I think that's different. And then the other thing is, I don't get to drive fire trucks anymore because that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It is really cool. And it's like all of a sudden one day,
drive a fire truck?
you don't get to drive them anymore.
No.
You're
You
like,
get to drive a fire truck?
you don't, not anymore.
Not anymore. He doesn't. And that's like for me, one of the biggest things I miss is humping a squad.
Sure.
Driving the squad, showing up on scene, being the boss, the street boss. And
You're not driving a squad anymore?
Nope. Right now I'm doing office stuff. I'm doing administrative work.
Drives a clown car. They gave him an electric, what are those mini cars? Those little tiny looking clown car things.
E-car.
The
E-car.
Yeah, the E-car. Yeah, they gave him one of those.
Pretty much. But
There you go, Sergeant.
and I miss that. I miss, going to calls, and I miss being part of the process and being part of a team, in that sense. But, but then again, it's like, it's a young person's game, I'm old or older, I've got, aches and pains, and, I can't run as fast as I used to. I'm not as strong as I used to be. So it's definitely a younger person's game. So now it's time for me to step back and let other people.
Young kids. So between the both of you, what is the longevity of the hardcore police and firefighter jobs before you have to pass it on to?
I think that has changed so much now lately that I don't even think you can do that. I mean, honestly, I believe right now, my opinion is I think that a public safety job has a shelf life unless you are able to maybe potentially get into an admin position, because the amount of calls that you're getting, your resources are not matching up with that. I mean, police departments are down. It's hard to recruit people. For example, South Metro became South Metro in 2008. They got 4,400 calls per year. When I left, I believe the numbers for 2024 were over 8,000. But yet our staffing had only increased by 4 firefighters per shift. And a small 2-station department, we don't have the resources that Minneapolis has. And that's the other thing that's very different is you can be on a large department, and nothing against a large department. They have people power, manpower, more equipment. You can throw people at the problem, and we had to be as efficient as we could. So most of the firefighters in my department had degrees, which wasn't a thing before. You needed to know so much more about fire, how it worked, how to put it out. And we were fortunate enough to be a suburban department where our equipment was top notch. So you get lighter, better equipment. You get the tools to make your job easier for what you don't have in staffing. But, I used to get to sleep at night. And when I left, on average, you were probably up at least 4 or 5 times a night. And when you're 54 and you're getting an hour's sleep and you're, at 0, and then you go to 130 miles an hour in 6 seconds and then try to go back to sleep and then do it again, that's hard. So if you can get 10 or 15 years out of it,
right.
And if things change, like volunteer fire departments are starting to disappear. They're looking at it and they're like, we need to spend money on this because, I got catechism, piano practice, lacrosse, football, hockey, basketball, and parents don't have any time to do that anymore. When I was a little kid, my parents didn't go to practice. That was like, sweet, they're out of the house. They don't go to every game. And now they go to every practice and everything. It's very different.
So with both you guys in the job like that, what was I going to ask? Obviously, the life expectancy is short. Then you go into other positions that you could do and change. Do you get paid differently if you go into those things? If you become the next level of something, or
you can. Admin positions pay more. Investigations. When I retired, I had a lot of opportunity to still do something fire related. I chose to stay teaching a little bit, but that's by choice. And there's opportunities. It's just how long do you want to do it? And I consider myself pretty fortunate. The only serious injury I got in my career was a broken collarbone. But there's guys that they have cancer, they have heart problems. One of the guys I work with, he's going out on a medical next month. And, that's tough. So it's like, sometimes you got to just step back.
So with the declining of the force in both police force and firefighting force, what's had to have changed? What did you have to, what are those things that you can't do anymore just because you don't have the manpower?
Well, ours, like I said, is starting to go up. But what it did is, when I got on, my career department had very little training and not a lot of money to spend on training. And now they do, because you need it. You need to have a gym. When I started, we didn't have a gym. They have a $90,000 gym at the fire station. Because like you said, you have to have a level of fitness. There's a minimum level. And you need to do that. And then also, like you said, is I could still do the job, but I couldn't do it the same way I did as when I started. I was 25 years older.
Yep. You guys have to have PT tests like military does?
Initially, when you start, but
you don't have to keep on doing it?
No. I think at that point, most of it is for your own personal well-being that you kind of do it, and peer pressure will have a lot to do it. Because that's everything. Is there's a lot of people that go, oh, they just got the job because they're a woman. They can't do it. I can do. Well, I couldn't do what some of the other guys on the department could do either. Some of the guys are like 6'4", 250 pounds.
Right.
Yeah.
But he doesn't fit in that little back window of a car when it's smashed up either. So everybody has their spot.
Mm-hmm.
It's the toll is different. You see people now leaving the job due to, mental health issues.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at things that now they're telling you when you come home and you're crabby and all this, and then now they're like, well, you probably had this. Probably should have done this. Well, we didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's,
So so obviously mental health is a big thing, and they want to try to make sure that you guys are, tip top shape, psychologically, obviously. Do they encourage you to go through counseling and see somebody or talk to somebody at least a certain amount of time?
In Minnesota, there's something called MinFire, which is an agency, an organization that helps with cancer awareness, cardiac issues, mental health stuff. My department was the first department in the state to belong to something that was called PAR 360. And PAR in the fire service stands for a personnel accountability report.
Mm-hmm.
When you go into a fire, you have a tag, or we call them bus tickets sometimes. When you go into a fire, you go to a specific area, you give them your bus ticket. And that officer who's in charge of that area has the bus ticket, so they know who's working for them and in what area.
Mm-hmm.
And when we arrive on scene at a fire, we do something called a 360. We walk around the structure to get an idea of what's going on. So a psychologist that worked with the fire service a lot created a program called PAR 360, which was a personnel accountability of your people.
Mm.
And every year
Smart.
we had a meeting. Your meeting could be 5 minutes. Your meeting could be an hour, or it could be longer based on what you needed or what you thought you needed. So it's getting better, and people talk about stuff a little bit more because we don't get called to good things.
Mm-hmm.
You get called to parades and school tours, but most of what you do is bad stuff.
Yep.
So
And that's the main reason why I didn't become a cop after an MP is 365 days a year, you're just dealing with stuff that you don't want to deal with. And, that was a decision for me.
And it's different now. How you hire people is different. And you probably see that in law enforcement. Is originally in the fire service, you got hired on what you did or what you could do,
Mm-hmm.
which is important. And now it seems to be more character based, and there's nothing wrong with that either. But sometimes you're a good person, but you don't have that other skill set. They got to find something in between where you're
Sure.
kind of that crusty person that can get it done, but at the same time be a people person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
That's a hard combination to find.
that's a big change because a lot of the likable people and all that stuff sometimes, in my experience, seem to have a little bit harder time when they see some of those bad things.
Yep.
Because they're just built different. It's not a criticism. It's just an observation.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need that crusty guy that's like, you have to tell yourself on every call, I didn't do this. I'm here to help.
Mm-hmm.
And, sometimes there's nothing you can do, but that's not my fault.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise it'd be too much.
Right.
Interesting. That's I don't think a lot of people that aren't in the field, and I'm sure there's a lot of military. Obviously, there's a lot of military both in police work and in firefighting that do both.
Right.
That go into that. It takes a certain type of personality and a certain type of grit to be able to go through that stuff and do it and do it over and over again every day.
Right. And I think, that's why I said I think this job might have a shelf life, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing
Mm-hmm.
because it may help them live longer.
Sure.
Just, physical, mentally, some of that other stuff. It's changed so much what you respond to, what you used to go to, and technology and all this stuff. I mean, the electronics, the computers, all the stuff. When I got on the volunteer fire department, normally you don't drive an engine for at least a year.
Yep.
They were manuals.
Oh my
There was
God.
not a lot of people that know how to drive a manual. And they're like, you know how to
You gotta
drive
get
a
like a CDL for that.
They're
right?
like, they're like, you know how to drive a manual? I'm like, yeah. I go, he goes, show me. And he goes, you didn't use the clutch. I'm like, I learned how to double clutch a long time ago. If you just shift at the right point and whatnot. And
Well, and that's funny because I used to drive a school bus back in the day. Back in the day, that's what you had to do. You had double clutch. You would have to push in the clutch, pull it out, push it in, and then put it in gear, and then drive. And then the next one, you push it out, you pull it into neutral, you push it back in, and you drop it into the next gear. And that's what you had to do. If you didn't do it that way, you were like, you were going to go to the chiropractor because your neck is
Dude,
out.
you are old as fuck.
and
This is true, but he's as old as me now. So.
They're all electric now, Patrick.
I grew up in the single clutch days, so whatever.
and I mean, it was spending that time on the farm.
Yep.
Did you have
Is it-
three
is
on
it-
the tree?
What help me? I think
What's that
all you
mean?
I did actually have 3 on the tree, and you can ask Jean about the day that she thought it was
The vomit
an automatic. It was the
Vomit
vomit comet. We call it the VC. Stacy remembers this car.
Yeah.
It was a puke
I remember
green.
you talking about
Yeah,
this
it
car.
was a
Yes.
puke
I'm
green
sorry. I thought whatever.
Mercury comet. And it was 3 on the tree. It was, and she thought, well, threw it in gear, almost like took out like 6 cars.
the vomit.
And we called it the vomit comet, the VC. It
I
had,
think you talked to me about it or showed me
Yeah.
a picture of it, but you were so fucking proud
I
of
was
it or
like-
something.
I mean,
Jeez.
it didn't have bucket seats. It had bench seats front and back. I mean,
yeah.
it was,
Yeah.
I mean, that thing lasted and
You're like-
lasted.
I bet Jean
and
liked that.
lasted.
You're like, no, don't put it in that. What are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know.
Everybody had to have somebody that had that one car.
Yeah.
My buddy had a Pontiac Sunbird that was sunflower yellow, and it had that big sunbird on the hood, like
Yeah.
the
Oh, I
Trans Am
remember
from
that. Yep.
Smokey and the Bandit. And we called it the Sun Chicken because it had this big chicken on the hood, and it was yellow. And whenever anybody had a party in high school and stuff, if you saw the Sun Chicken there, you knew it was going to be a good one. So
Right.
Oh, yeah.
that's, you know,
I had a '86 Cutlass that was lime green, except the door got fucked up. So the only thing that I could get from the junkyard, and this is back
Was
in the
it-
day where
was
you
it a
could drive up
two-door?
to a junkyard, I had a forest green door on a lime green Cutlass.
Was it a
Awesome.
two-door? Was it a two-door, right?
Yeah, it was a 2-door. One of
Yeah,
those. Yeah.
yeah. It was
Oh, yeah.
Cutlass
Coupe, yeah.
Supreme. Oh
Cutlass
yeah,
class.
I had that.
Those
and it was
Cutlasses,
a,
though,
it was
man.
a V8. It was a V8.
My mom
Yes.
had a
Yep.
1980 and a 1988 Cutlass.
Nice.
You know, our kids today will never know what it's like to fuck with a carburetor in the winter when it's 10 below.
Right.
True.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So true.
We're
So-
spraying
Yeah.
shit and like flames are coming out. My mom's trying to turn the engine. Patrick, spray more! And all of a sudden, boom, my hair goes on fire. She's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Like, yeah, our kids will never fucking know.
So I was one of the few, the proud
While she's got a
Fiero
cigarette in her
owners.
mouth and a
You
beer in
had
her
a
hand.
Fiero.
I had a Fiero.
Remember those
Oh, the
Fieros?
Fieros.
Yeah, like the
Yes.
engine was in the back.
Yes, yes.
It was,
Yes.
It
Yeah.
was like
Broke
a
down every 2
lightweight.
weeks.
So one of the last month I'm working, and I got one of the new guys, you know, who's like 12 and a half, 13, you know, picked him up from school, and he saw one going, he was like, "What is that?" It's a Fiero. He's like, "What the hell's a Fiero? Is that Italian?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah."
Yep.
All the way from
Fiero.
Michigan.
Yep.
Yeah, all the way from Pontiac, Michigan.
Yep.
So
Oh, my God.
Shawn, it's, you know, a lot of people don't get this, but most people retire by the time they're like 65 or 68, and you're 50 what? 54?
I'm 55 now, but I
55?
was technically
Yeah, why are you
So
guys
you-
fucking
I
retiring
was
so
I
early?
was 54 when I retired.
Retired at
that
54,
work?
so
So
Yeah,
you
well-
just took the diapers off?
you know, it's just I think, you know, if you go into police, you know, or teaching right at 18 or 20 years old or whatever, and you do, you know, well, the military, if I went in at 18, I could retire at 38 with
Right.
20 years,
Yep.
do 30 or whatever at 48. But that's a pretty good deal to be able to retire at 54. And now
it's-
you're
Yeah, now I work on bikes at a bicycle shop. Because that's what I wanted to do. I used to like to ride bikes when I got done with work. It's what you did, and
Do you
know
like
what?
e-bikes?
Yeah, work on e-bike, work on everything.
Nice.
Um,
Your
I built my own bike when I was like 12.
and-
I was
and-
like, there was a local bike shop up in the strip mall. I grew up in St. Louis Park. It was at Texatonka.
oh, I know exactly.
It's
Yes,
Texatonka.
I know
Yeah,
exactly.
and
Yeah,
it-
my mom
before,
worked
like-
at Napa in St. Louis Park for 42 years.
Oh shit!
Just yeah.
I actually lived at 2700 Rhode Island, which are the apartments back by the Napa.
Okay,
over there.
yep, I know exactly what you're talking
But-
about. Yeah.
But yeah, so there was, I think it was Woody's bike shop or something. It was just a mom and pop. But the guy, I was in there every day looking at bikes I couldn't afford. But eventually I afforded one. I got a paper route, and this bike was like $299. It was a Mongoose.
Oh, of
And,
course.
yeah.
And I was doing paper route. I was probably getting like $15 every week. So it took a while. But I finally had like almost enough money, and my mom, I think, gave me like the extra 30 or $50 back in the day, which was a lot. And I got this bike, and I was up at that bike store all the time, and I just took interest in bicycles. And so they let me go in the back, and he's like, "Hey, you want to like repair a tire?" And I'm like, or change a tire. And I'm like, sure. And so I learned, and then they actually, the owner actually walked me through how to build a bike, because they used to come in boxes.
Yeah,
They don't-
yeah. They
I
still
that's
do.
what bike
Yep.
shops do.
I had a
They still come in boxes. Bike shops put them together for you. So I actually built a bike for him, and he walked me through it. The complicated stuff, like the the gearing in the hub,
Yep.
and all that stuff, he did. But I knew enough to put a bike together. So I took my Mongoose frame, and they had this. Greg Hill used to race for Haro or Mongoose or
Yep,
something. But his name was
yep.
Greg Hill.
Yep. I know
And
exactly
he
what you're talking
separated
about.
and made Greg Hill products. So there was this GHP frame on the wall, and it was supposed to be super light. It was silver, chrome. I was like, oh my God, I got to have this. So I figured out I could take my Mongoose bike parts and just replace them onto this frame. So I bought this frame, again, at probably like another $200. And then I stripped down my Mongoose in my garage, and I put all my fucking Mongoose shit on this Greg Hill Products frame. And then I remember the uni seats? They were plastic.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Like, I swear to God, my BMX bike at the end of the day had all aluminum premium products on it, and it weighed like 8 pounds. Like, you could pick it up with your pinky.
I had
Like,
my
it was so light.
my red line with a tough neck stem.
My buddy had a red
And-
line.
oh, yeah.
I had a Mongoose.
Yeah.
My buddy had a red line, and we'd argue about who had the better bike.
I had friends in Japan like that.
The PK Ripper was the bike. to
I
have,
had a
man.
PK Ripper.
Yeah.
I had a Mongoose at one time.
Or a Torker.
Yep.
I had a Huffy.
Oh,
I had a Huffy.
we cannibalized all the parts
out.
and put them on different bites. Yeah.
Do you remember the tough wheels?
All you rich
the
kids
big
had all
spoked
cool
plastic wheels.
Yeah.
The tough
Yep.
wheels.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
tough I had the
wheels.
tough
So I had a green machine. Remember those?
Oh yeah.
They were,
With the brake on the back tire?
Yeah, and you had like levers that you would do instead of.
Oh, the green machine.
I had a Schwinn first 16 birthday, and it had a purple sparkly banana seat. And my dad took this steering wheel or the steering thing off, and he put on an actual steering wheel.
So you
on
took
the
the
bike.
handlebars
steering
off
wheel.
and put a steering wheel on.
Yeah,
it.
I didn't have handlebars. It was a
Nice.
steering wheel. It was awesome.
Did you have the big thing in the back too, on the banana?
Nope,
seat? The-
nope.
It was like a big loop.
Yeah.
behind
Oh
it.
yeah, yeah.
But it was
Like
purple.
you were gonna
the
fucking
purple
cart bitches around on the back.
It was the purple sprinkly banana seat and the steering wheel. It was like, what?
Schwinn had
But
that
anyway-
3-speed.
Yeah,
My-
the 3-speed.
My,
Yep.
my proud GHP bike that was so amazing. I used to take to the Dakota Trails, which are in St. Louis Park. They were like in this wooded area. And some kids said, let me ride it. And I'm like, no. And ultimately, I kind of got pushed off my bike. He took it, and I never saw it again. And I literally cried for days. And it's literally, I think it's literally PTSD with me, because every time my bike gets stolen, and I think I brought this up on a couple episodes ago when
did.
we were talking
You
about
did.
homeless.
Yep.
I've had 2 mountain bikes stolen, and it
No,
to
you
this
donated
day
them.
just crushes me when I'm like, I don't have
Let's
a bike.
No,
let's find
you
them.
said you donated mountain bikes.
Yeah, I donated a couple mountain bikes, but yeah, that one that got stolen from me, it's just the to the kid he was just stealing a bike. To me, he was taking my fucking
Livelihood.
dreams.
Right.
My God damn, man! I did all the paper route shit. I saved money. I bought a bike, and then I bought a second frame, and then did my own thing to it. It was like, oh my God, it was so traumatizing. I will never forget that.
It's like bikes
It
make
seems silly,
everybody
but-
happy, though. That's why you
Dude.
do it. Bikes are great.
Yeah.
And I work in a mom and pop shop, not one of those big box shops.
Oh, what's that bike store? The bike shop in Minneapolis that we took our bikes to.
It was right off of
Eric's
Cedar
bike
Avenue.
shop?
No, it wasn't Eric's. It was kind of a.
Not the alt, was it?
It's right off
They
of I
know-
think a Riverside and
know their
Cedar.
shit.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking.
It's like kind of in
Oh
the
my
back.
God. So I brought my bike in just to have it like refurbished. I don't know.
Uh,
The guy goes, "Oh, this is a cream puff," and I'm like,
Well,
"What?"
we
And I'm
got
like,
these
"What?"
Palomar. They're called Palomar, and they were mountain bikes for street, and they were like the basic level. So we bring them in, and they're like, "Yeah, these are street bikes. They're not mountain bikes. They look like it, and that whole thing." But we got them tuned up. So we could ride them, but we rode them and we kept them in pretty good shape. But now we bought a couple of e-bikes.
Long story short, when we went to pick up our bikes,
Mm-hmm.
I walked up to the guy and I go, yeah, I'm here to pick up my cream puff.
And they knew exactly what
Probably
bike.
knew, right?
They
Yeah,
knew
okay,
which bike it was
Yep.
too.
True story.
Yeah, it is true story. Yeah, it was funny. Now we've got these e-bikes. They're the fat tire e-bikes, and we absolutely love them.
So between
Fantastic.
you two, between being a cop and a firefighter, what did you guys think of the rollout of the e-bikes downtown and the scooters and all that stuff that they put down there? For
I don't mind them. It's people are gonna do what people are gonna do. That's that's the hard thing about it.
Is that new down there?
Well, they came up a few years ago.
We had that shit
Right.
4
Well,
years
it's
ago.
probably been what 5, 6, 7 years, probably 6, 7 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit before COVID.
A
But
little,
yeah.
about the time,
Yeah.
a little bit before COVID, maybe a year before.
Okay.
They came out with these scooters. So these folks were getting on these scooters. They take their credit card, and they got
Yep.
Apple
You got
Pay
an
or
app.
whatever, and they got the app and they pay for it, and they tap everything in. They get on these scooters and go, and like
Job security.
and it's job security for EMS because these guys, these
Oh,
they're
people jumping on it
drunk.
they're drunk
Wasted.
idiots.
Oh, yeah.
No
Especially
helmets,
late at night.
no helmets,
They should
and they're like,
deactivate those things at 10 p.m.
I mean, God knows how many times I've watched one of these idiots go through and they almost get hit by the train. And, and when the train hits something, even at 10 miles an hour,
It hurts.
You have 250,000 pounds per train, and there's 3 trains, so you have 750,000 pounds going 10 miles an hour. The amount of force, if they got hit by that, would turn their insides into jello.
Sure.
And it just, and we would just, oh, thank God. And it was like every 5 minutes, oh, thank God.
It's funny
Oh,
that
thank God.
you say they should deactivate them at 10 o'clock. So
Oh, good God. yes.
we were at a firefighters conference, in Indianapolis. So a lot of mature people there at 10 p.m. And they have zones within downtown Indianapolis where you cannot ride a scooter. And you're like, oh, what are they going to do? Well, when you hit that zone, when you're going as fast as that scooter goes, it stops.
that's awesome.
So it launches you into
What-
Superman mode, and
It-
you're like
it-
going down the street going, I'm not on a scooter.
It doesn't quite like stop you dead, but the motor stops going but it's like putting the brakes on, and it's like
Ooh.
It just
Until
shuts
you-
down, and
until
so
you-
there's a pile of scooters
And-
at this one spot, right?
until you get out of that zone. But literally at 11 o'clock, like you said, there's just a circle of scooters around this 2-block area because everybody's like, what the hell?
And they're probably piled up on the corner like stupid scooter. You
So
know?
this is so funny because I went to Target that's by my house. I've gone to this Target since I moved here, and there was a bunch of carts like outside of the Target on this one side, and it wasn't too far away from the entry door. So I grabbed one, and the wheel was locked. I'm like, okay. So my kids wanted to go to another store. I said, okay, you go there. I'm gonna go into Target, get my stuff. I come out, I push the cart, and sure enough, I get to this point where it's like the cart just stops.
Stops.
And I realized I looked down and you could see, like the little cement lines where they put the magnets or whatever the fuck triggers it. And I'm like, oh, that's why there are all these. So I contributed to like a dozen carts sitting there, and I had shit in my cart, and I couldn't push it to my car. And it's 100 degrees. I'm waiting for my kids to come out of the store. Like, fucking hurry up, because I need them to carry all the shit in the cart with me to my car, which is a block away. Like, it was a fucking cluster. But yeah, but I'm just thinking about that fucking you're just on a scooter. I was.
Well, and that's funny because we were at the Home Depot buying flowers and plants and shit, and on the on the actual cart it says it's got a warning label that says that once it gets out of the parking lot, it's going to lock up.
You can't ride it down the hill to your homeless camp.
No, so
Yeah, it's
like,
hardcore out here because of the homeless. So yeah, thank you. Thanks, homeless people.
mhm.
So
Gift that keeps on. giving.
so Brett didn't break enough glasses. This is what,
No, Gene's trying to break some. Anyway, so
Speaking of glasses,
No, I just
Now-
wasted alcohol.
now my question for you, Shawn, is what are you doing now in retirement other than the bike stuff? Is there anything else you're doing? Teaching? Are you still?
Oh yeah,
keeping
I did go back
shenanigans.
to teaching. My complete retirement lasted 2 months. I went back to teaching, so I'm still doing the EMS education for police and fire, and I'm taking a break from that right now. So it's just
Mhm.
working at the bike shop a couple days a week and riding my own bike and kind of doing nothing.
Gallivanting around the
That's
city,
great.
Being on podcasts and just
gallivanting
doing
around the
whatever.
city, going to different restaurants and enjoying spending your hard-earned money. We went to met him downtown last week, and then we went to the
Yeah, I've seen you a
Crab
lot this
Shack.
week.
Yeah,
Oh,
Crab
me?
Shack.
Stacy, I've seen him a lot. So
Yeah.
I mean, I
Last
think I'm
night.
going to be good till December now.
Yeah, get rid of that guy.
No, it's just, that is the weirdest thing in retirement is you get used to getting a check every 2 weeks.
Mhm.
You're just used to, getting a direct deposit. Now you just get one at the beginning of the month. I mean, it's still awesome, but it's kind of weird when you look at your bank account, you don't get anything for 4 weeks.
Dude, I get paid once a month too.
Yeah, it's
But okay, so
State of California does that.
what I
So-
worry about is just like when I go into my summertime as a teacher, you wake up the next day and you have nothing on the docket. You're like, I can do whatever I want, however I want, all of that. So how do you navigate an empty brain per se and go, what do I want to do today?
Well, there's always something to do. You like to read. There's always something to fiddle with. But you do need to keep yourself occupied.
Mm-hmm.
If you're Brett, you start a podcast.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and that's the whole thing. I mean, I'm 58 years old now, and it's time to create the
Third
retirement
career.
gig.
The third career.
The third career, the retirement
Career.
gig.
Yep.
And that's
If
Yeah.
you get too many things in the basement, you don't have any reason to go upstairs anymore.
is
That's what you got to worry about.
There you go.
We're like, nobody's seen him for 2 months. Where is he?
so. Patrick, where's your basement?
He said he's on the third floor.
I'm on the third floor of an apartment building, man.
So, but your basement is the pool, isn't it?
Yes, no, that is definitely true. I live in California, and here's the thing: it's like I'm at the pool a lot here because when I was a kid, I had an apartment building that we grew up in, but it did not have a pool. And my best friend John had a pool, so I had some experience going to a pool, but I always had to go through John. But I'm just like, I look at it; it's a very nice resort like pool. It's a all the apartments out here are kind of like, hey, you're on vacation. And so that's what I feel like. And I've told myself I'm not going to lose that. When I moved here, I still look at palm trees and I go, holy shit. I still go to my pool and I go, holy shit. I'm just never going to not appreciate where I am.
Uh, yeah, that's important as long as you're in a good spot. I think that's
Yeah. No, it's great.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Um,
I'm gonna probably move into a larger apartment because my kids are getting older now. I got a 11 and a 9-year-old, and they're gonna need their own room. But right now, I'm in this one bedroom, and it's not bad. But um, it's close to everything that I need to be close to, especially my children and all that. So,
Well, and it's a lot
I don't know.
different, in Minnesota. What you can get in Minnesota is nothing like you could. What I can get in Minnesota would be probably a 6-bedroom mansion, and
for a
and
place for a 1-bedroom.
right.
apartment,
And
yeah.
in California, it's a 1-bedroom apartment that has cockroaches.
right.
Yeah.
Well,
I
I was
did get
gonna
on
say,
the.
I think a few years ago, the housing market in Minnesota was actually pretty bad. Like there was no houses, right?
Right,
So
right.
everyone was
Well,
overpaying for stuff.
Yeah, but the amount of building that was going on was huge.
Yeah.
So you could get a 6-bedroom home in say Victoria, Minnesota for like $480,000, $500,000,
Yep.
which at $500,000 in
Here, that's-
California
yeah, that's a
gets you like a 2-bedroom.
two bedroom, two bath if
box.
you're lucky,
Yeah.
and you're outside of the fucking city. So
Right.
yeah, no.
So
And that's why I live in an apartment because my ex got the house, which is fine. But if I got my own house, like I'd have to move 30 miles away. Like I just can't. But I can rent an apartment close to my kids' school, my kids, everything. So that's why I'm an apartment guy. And honestly, there's a lot of, they say, oh, you're just giving money to a landlord or a mortgage or a company. But the same could be said about buying a house. You're just giving a bank a lot of money. You know what I mean? Banks
Right,
get
yep.
it doesn't matter. Someone's gonna get what they get, but
But you get a
I
return
don't
on a
see
house. But
renting an apartment as a waste. Is my point.
Well,
I think it's
in
just fine. I
Minnesota,
get all
it's-
the amenities. My shit breaks, they come and fix it. I love that.
in Minnesota, I
but
paid
you said-
$1,100 for a studio apartment in St. Louis Park, and that's what my mortgage is right now in a 2,000 square foot house. So it's
Well,
just
that's
like
because it's Saint Jewish Park. It was
I-
the Jews.
I
Remember
made
we talked
Now,
about
now, we are
Patrick-
not
Patrick-
going
Kidding.
that
So-
direction.
when you
this.
want to.
Last episode, I said I'm from St. Louis Park, and it's nicknamed St.
When-
Jewish Park, and I'm very friendly with the Jews. So I'm just that was my okay.
Patrick, you said that you were within 2 minutes of getting a real good tequila or margarita. So what are you complaining for?
Yeah, I'm not complaining. I'm gonna stay right here. I'm just not gonna have a basement or a house.
I am one of the few people probably that actually made money buying a house, if you can believe that. And so we bought a brand new townhome last year, and the builder had a mortgage company, and they give you this 3-2-1 buy down. So it drops your mortgage rate for a while, whatever. But I sold my townhome. My girlfriend sold her house to somebody from California. I was happy to pay full price for it, no problem.
Sure.
And they put this money in escrow. Well, the builder says, well, if you pay your mortgage off early, you don't get it. They sold the mortgage right after we bought it, and then we paid off the house right away. So, because I didn't want a mortgage,
Mm-hmm.
and we actually made $3,000 to take a loan for 6 months. So we made money to buy a house.
That's actually that's smart, but it's rare that even happens.
And in
Yeah.
retirement, he said, "What am I doing?" Because I didn't want the association to make stupid rules I got on the association.
You're gonna start make bird houses or something.
Oh no. It's my political career. It starts with the association, next it's
Yep.
the mayor. Who knows where it's going to go?
Okay, guess what? I am the
There's-
treasurer of the townhome association that we live in. So, and Brett is
Yeah.
co-president. So I'm actually
You're both pricks. You know that? HOAs. They're
yeah.
terrible.
Guess what?
Um,
Guess what, bitch?
Got two pools
no,
though.
I was gonna
Two
say-
pools.
Yeah.
There's a new trend though where like
So what is it?
I forget what it's called. If you have a home with a backyard, you build a tiny home in the backyard or a shed, and people can buy it as their own house on your. So it's like you're leasing your property, but they build their own tiny house on it. Have you heard of this?
It's called a tree house.
No,
I would not want that.
It's pretty much a treehouse, but it's on the ground. It's
But
the
it's a
same.
trend. No.
But it is a trend. But that helps.
Well, it's a way for homeowners to generate revenue.
Well,
that-
it's also a really good idea for like in Minneapolis. They're doing that now for kind of a homeless initiative. So they give them these tiny homes, and actually, believe it or not, it's working out.
So
it
far.
is. I'm like, so
until
far,
the
it's
drug lords
working.
come in and take it over.
Well, and that's the whole thing. But there is security that goes along with it because it's community,
Okay.
and
Yep.
they're vetted. So it's not everybody gets it. Not like the guy that sits on the corner and smokes fentanyl and does all that kind of stuff. So it's actually people
Wait, you
that
can
are
smoke
looking
fentanyl?
for. Well, yeah, that's what they do it around here.
I've only
Yeah.
snorted it or taken it like a pill.
Patrick,
form.
you
Intravenously.
need to take a 3-minute timeout.
Every time she says that, that's like an edit. Right? That's where we edit.
No.
No, I'm kidding. But my whole retirement goal, and I'm glad we're talking about this because I'm 53, and I started at the state agency I work for, which we'll never tell on this podcast because it's very sensitive.
Very sensitive.
Yes, we cannot divulge what I do for the government of California. Never. It's very, very top secret. But
little hush puppy.
Stacy, you're going pee for a lot for an old man.
He's got a small
No.
bladder.
You leave him alone.
It's
So my
his
point was is-
birthday. He's got to leave him alone.
Yep.
So I started here in 2016, and by 2036, I'll have that 20-year thing, and I'll also be, what will I be, 64? But I'm buying an RV.
I make more money not working than I did working because you're not paying into the plan anymore.
Coin.
They tell you, like, honestly, they said you should quit now because you're losing money. You're
Yeah.
giving us money.
Right.
You're entitled.
Actually, yeah.
You're entitled to this money. You should take it now. Because if you
And I was like a big opponent of like public employee pensions, but they don't realize how much we actually just pay in. You know
Right,
what I mean?
right.
We pay for it. It's it's not coming out of other taxpayers' money.
no, not at all. And
It's all of us. Like,
they look at
Yeah.
that and you're like, they literally said, they go, if you stay one more year, you'll get $400 more a month, which is $4,800. But if you don't take the money you're entitled to right now and work one more year, it's going to take you 27 years to make that money up that you could have just been taking. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, okay. And then he said, well, I'm going to leave in February. And she says, no, because if you work a day in February, you don't get a check in February. And that's how I ended up actually quitting 2 weeks before my 55th birthday, because they go, you can go in your birthday month. And I'm like, I'm out.
right. Yep. Yeah, I know all that too. Yeah, it's a game, man. Like, yeah, CalPERS is it's called CalPERS, it's
Right. And we have para, same thing. But are they nice to you?
Professional employee resources, whatever. But yeah, no, I think they're pretty good. Yeah.
They, usually you think that being that the state, that they're like not going to help you out. And they're like trying to help you get everything you're entitled to. I'm like,
they're like that here too. They're like, hey, you know what? If you went on this date, you'll get this much more, or just letting you know you're screwing yourself. It comes down to like dates and time and how much vacation you have and all that shit. Like,
but health insurance, I've never had to pay health insurance my entire adult life
Right.
till February. I'm like, holy shit.
Now,
now you
as
gotta-
a
That's
single
nice.
payer, what are you paying per month?
$1,100.
That is crazy.
And what that is it's exactly the same coverage I had at the fire department. So basically instead of Cobra,
Right.
I'm still on the fire department plan. I just pay for my own.
Wow.
But I have medical, dental, and vision, so I have all three. So I mean, it's a good deal.
If you look at it but for a single payer though, it's still a lot. $1,100 per month. I mean, I
was a firefighter,
overall,
though, remember? Cha-ching.
13 grand a year.
Well, in California,
Jeez.
so in California, it's different. They give you health care benefits, but you got to be a 25-year person. So what I'm facing is if I retire at 20 years, I only get 75% coverage. So I'd have to do 25% of probably 1,100. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if I stayed until I was 69, I mean, what's the point of that? I just lost 5 years of my life because I could have been traveling, and what are the odds I'm going to get sick? Not me. I mean, I never drink too much or smoke cigarettes or, but so that's something I have to weigh. If I wait till I'm, 69, I will get full medical from state of California.
See, we lost that.
But I don't want to do that. I really want to get out as soon as I can.
And that's my goal in retirement. When they go, what are you doing? My goal was to pay health insurance and association dues for the townhome. That's all. And that's like nothing to make, but it's a reason to get up before 10 at least a couple days a week.
What about travel? Where are you going to go?
Yeah.
Where do you want to go next? Because I know you travel a lot. You've been all over.
I haven't.
Are you scuba certified, by the way?
I am.
I knew you were because you talked about firefighting and going underwater. I thought you probably have to have a scuba thing for that.
That was just a personal thing because
we got to go diving.
I don't like swimming. I had to do it for like ice rescue, do it, but like to actually rescue somebody for swimming, I'm like, I was actually kind of pissed. I said, you know what? I've done confined space, rope rescue, trench rescue, every structural collapse, every kind of high angle rope, anything, hazmat. Don't make me try to save somebody that's trying to drown because they will kill you. I've seen it happen. I'm like, I am the kind of swimmer that likes an inner tube tied to another inner tube with a cooler attached to it.
What's your thoughts and experience on 35W when that bridge
I
collapsed?
was going to ask you that.
There was a lot of things there that God,
I
hope nobody ever has to see that again. Yeah, our whole team, all the state, the task force was involved in it, and other than that, probably the most frustrating thing is my brain is always 3 steps ahead. I don't know why. I mean, like some people are built to do this job, but here's what we're going to do. Here's plan B, here's plan C, and I'm already working on a plan D. And it was so frustrating to see the disorganization. And it's easy
Everybody
to talk.
was on plan A when you should have been on C at the time.
And,
right?
I wasn't the
Just
top of the
chaos.
food chain, so it's easy to stand back because people weren't breathing down my neck. But we need to be better in that regards. And
So where were you and what happened? Like,
we got called in for like some recovery operations and stuff the day after. There were bodies and things to be recovered and other stuff. And it was a very chaotic scene. And, that's one of the things that you do in our job is the reason we get called is because whoever called you can't handle it by themselves anymore.
Right.
That's why we're getting called. And it just, it was ugly.
Well, you can never train for those things. That's the problem with all those catastrophes like that, 9/11. You can't train for that. You can hypothetically train for it.
Correct.
But you don't know all of the variables and ramifications that happen, right?
And yeah, that's just one that it's just one of those things that it's a frustrating thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you see things that get away, and it's in hindsight, and I guess that's the cool thing about the job and having a department that started to invest in in the people is, the minute you think you know everything and you're perfect at it, you got to quit because you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's arrogant.
you can have something that went very well, but there's still always something that could be better. So it's like you always want to strive for perfection, but you never want to get there because if you get there, it's time to be done.
One thing that's cool about I think that was great being an MP, and I know this is as a cop, and I know this is probably as true as a firefighter, is that no matter what, every day is different, and you have no idea what you're getting into that day.
Well, and that goes with police work too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it's one of those things that I enjoyed about the job. It's like each day is different.
You have no idea.
You still it's still kind of the same stuff you're dealing with, but there's a difference in each day in what you do, who you help, and how you help them, and you have good days and bad days. And I remember, seeing things that that will haunt me forever. And then I remember seeing things that will make me proud and happy forever, and it's just, you find that equilibrium that brings you.
I think that was probably one of the attractions to the job is you train for everything as best you can because you don't know what you're going to get, when you're going to get it, or where you're going to get it. And in teaching, one of the reasons why I'm liked by some of the other instructors that goes, what do you want to teach? I don't care. What do you want me to teach? Because I'm supposed to know all of it. Because there's some people, I don't want to teach OB.
Well, but when you get to those points of teaching, is it all or nothing, or is it a little bit of each? How do you come up with the curriculum in order to teach to people?
That, for the most part, is done for us. And then there's localized training. Like, for example, we're working with Hennepin Medics. They have new restraints. Hennepin Medics, for the longest time, and you probably remember this, were one of the few EMS agencies where their paramedics carried handcuffs.
Yeah.
They're gone.
Wow.
And they are stunned. They're not better.
They were the first paramedics I seen wearing vests.
Yeah. So now,
ballistic vests.
Now they have a bag of restraints, and they have to. You just can't go to the handcuffs anymore.
Wow.
What about sidearms? Do any firefighters or EMT have to?
It has been talked about a lot, and it's been poo-pooed. Vests are on my former department. They're on every seated position. So if you're at work, there's a vest for you. Different color than the cops, though. Yeah. So looks the same, but it has red letters on it as opposed to white letters because you don't want to get mistaken for.
Sure.
It's. Yeah.
I think one of the newest technologies that changed the game that I've seen recently is the Narcan, right? Isn't that
It's everywhere.
Yeah, from all the ODs I was talking about earlier.
It's everywhere, but we never had that. So
now my challenge is to teach your people how to use it.
Well, and that's the thing.
Because they're running down the street with it ready to go. They're like,
what do you mean, you people? You people.
You said you people?
You just got looked down upon.
That's because we're blue.
As a cop. Yeah.
Brett.
No,
blue.
but that's true though. That's true.
Firefighters are cool. You guys are just like, yeah.
Brett has
I'm just kidding.
dispensed Narcan multiple times.
And that's every cop. Bo. Every
you?
cop. No. but we have. I mean, it's
Patrick.
Is that another 3-minute timeout?
Yes.
Okay.
But it
That's
is.
probably a
I
5-minute
mean,
timeout.
public transportation. I'm sorry, but yes, I think I have deployed Narcan in the parking lot of a large big box store that starts with W, and on those tubes that travel people
Ends with
around.
something that rhymes with fart.
Everything.
Yes.
With fart.
I've lost count of how many people I've had Narcan or actually had to perform CPR. just, oh
isn't
my
that
God, I
amazing
hope
that
the
they
medics
at
get
least
here
have it?
soon,
You can
you know.
just
No,
shoot some
the real
drugged
question
out
is,
person and
do
they
you
just go,
have any Narcan here in the house right now?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
So
No,
believe
you
it or
do,
not,
Brett.
and I don't.
Brett, you do.
I went to a
For Gene,
bike
you got to have it
No.
for Gene.
to a bike
No.
show. I have Narcan at home. Not that I'm ever going to need it for it, but
Mhm.
I actually have 2 doses of Narcan at home
Just to have it.
because they give it to you. They're like, "Do you need to be trained on how to use it?" I'm like, "Nah, I got it."
Is it a good
I
field
mean, it could be
drug?
handy if you're carrying it at a mall or something. Like you could be a hero,
Um,
right? Like I'm
well-
not being facetious. I'm
So,
just
that's the
literally,
thing
like,
is-
if everyone just carried Narcan.
Everybody goes, "What kind of first aid kit do you got?" Like, do you have this big monster
have a
medical bag in your
Band-Aid.
car? I have
No, like it's probably like this.
yeah, it's that big. It has a
Yeah,
tourniquet,
it's-
some gloves, some stuff for bleeding, and it's like, yeah,
Mhm.
it's gonna hurt, but you won't die.
Yeah. A Twinkie.
Yeah.
A
Yep.
Twinkie.
Just in
So
And
for diabetics, I'm serious.
and
you put,
I have a bag of Funyuns in my car because you need snacks
Yeah,
all the time.
absolutely.
Never know. Funyuns in the glove box.
Nice.
So what's next on the docket there, my friend? What do you
Yeah.
do you have any big things
next
coming
for
up
Shawn?
or
No big trips as of right now. The girl's still working, so no.
nothing?
Yeah,
What does it feel like to have an empty brain?
you tell me.
Yeah, I have one all the time. Obviously, I mean, it's just to not have to think about anything, not have to worry about anything, not have to.
It's so bad. Okay, that's a clip right there. Clip that.
That's a clip.
No,
that.
you.
I'm a teacher.
You know what's not empty?
I'm not retarded. I'm
No,
retired.
don't say that, Patrick. That's not cool.
We just got flagged, didn't we? Okay.
It
You can
not
say
cool.
retard. It's
no,
it's fine.
that's not really cool.
it is a word that just means slow. It's a descriptor.
Yeah.
It's an adjective.
Every time you fly an airplane, when you come down, it's like retard,
Yes.
retard.
The fire trucks used to have retarders on them, which slowed it down.
Yep.
We're
They
triggering
were.
Gene right now. Like crazy. Okay. Sorry. I genuinely apologize.
So-
I won't say that.
No, your brain's always work. But getting back to teaching,
Mm-hmm.
I think what made me an effective teacher is when I came and they talked, and somebody goes, "Well, when's the last time you did CPR?" And you'd be like, 6 hours ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to have that anymore. I'm not getting the touches, the patient
Mhm.
touches anymore.
Yep.
In my opinion, I work with some other people that teach a lot, that have taught for a long time, that have been out of the business for a while. I'm not going to be that.
Mm.
I'll give it a
Yeah.
couple years because things change. And I do work at a great place where I'm going to be well aware of the changes,
Mm-hmm.
but I will personally never have implemented those changes.
Yeah.
So this is something to do for a couple years, and it's kind of to take it off the plate because at my peak, I was on Apple Valley Fire as a district chief. I was on my career fire department. I was on the special operations team. I was on Task Force 1, and I was teaching at Hennepin all at the same time. And then you take Apple Valley off your plate. You take special operations team off your plate. You take the fire department, my full-time job off the plate. Then you quit for a while and you're like, okay, at probably I work 70 hours a week on average for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you're down to 9 hours for school for 2 months. And you're like,
Pussy.
what do you do?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's
And then
that's the whole
winter
thing.
time. So now it's like,
That's the whole thing.
I'm teaching. I still have a couple more classes to take in school
Mm-hmm.
because I actually went to college to learn how to work on bikes, if you can believe that. There's
Mhm.
college
Yeah,
classes.
there
for
are.
it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I plan on going back to school after I retire.
And I mean, I'll be a
Great.
constant student, but
Mhm.
I don't
Well, that's
know.
that's what I mean. Is like when you go from something that is so active, psychologically active as what you guys are going through, and then all of a sudden it stops.
Hey, Patrick, what do you think? Should I just bump Stacy off and just take his spot?
There you go.
Yeah.
Be a
Yeah.
sped teacher. you want to deal with these kids? You want to
Yeah.
deal with these kids?
You could you could be our fill-in. I think we're looking for a
We're
fill-in. host
looking for
every
a
now and
fill-in,
then.
so
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
job
you want
is
a
open.
part-time gig, Stacy.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
fine.
they're trying to get rid of me already.
No.
I like
Filling
I like
clothes.
whiskey, so I
No.
used to travel the world literally for beer.
Oh, that's right.
Mhm.
How many countries have you been to?
Mm,
Like, I think there's 287 countries. I think something
yeah,
like
so
200.
my first time to Europe was in 2018, 17,
Hmm.
17.
Okay. Yeah.
And so was Amsterdam, so the Netherlands, France, Germany, Switzerland. Went to Paris, Germany, Belgium, Italy, more of the Netherlands, Copenhagen, Denmark. Yeah, just all over.
How was Copenhagen, by the way? My people are from there.
My
It's
people.
amazing, but it's expensive. 2 beers and a hamburger is $50.
Oh,
Well, it's even worse in Norway. Like,
Right,
I'm
right.
legit from Norway, but I have like a long lost great-ish grandfather from Copenhagen. But yeah, I'm from Nordic. I come from Norge. I snakker norsk. But I want to go to Norway, but it's super expensive there.
You just have to. It's like, what are you going to take it with
wait,
you?
wait. It's coming from a guy from California saying it's super expensive someplace else. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's
That's funny.
that's honestly what it's like. Is if you look at it, you have to think of like the Nordic countries are like going to New York, Washington, California.
Yeah.
Because it is more expensive there than it is here. But I stayed in a hostel. I did not get killed. It was not a wooden shack in the middle of anything. It looked like an apartment building.
Yep.
Nice.
And
In
that was-
Copenhagen?
and it was like $130 a night. Split it with a buddy, and it was right in the middle of down. Copenhagen is awesome.
Yeah.
It's like a baby Europe. They got
Yeah.
changing of the guard, or baby
Everyone's on a
London.
bike too, right?
They
Everyone's on a
will
bike,
run
too.
you over. Bikes take precedence over cars. The
Just
only
like
thing,
Japan's like that too.
the only thing they don't win on is trains.
Hmm.
And the way our trains, like we run over people left and right here on trains, and our trains are loud. Trains in Europe sneak up on you,
Yep.
and
Super
they
quiet.
make no noise.
Japan's like
And if
that,
they
yeah.
hit you, it's like they push you out of the way and they keep on going. And I'm like, awesome. 'Cause people got to get places.
So in Copenhagen, I know this is a thing in Norway, but do they also leave like baby carriages outside of a coffee shop? Because like mothers will go downtown and they literally will just leave their baby carriage with the baby in it outside of the store.
the baby
They will
in
go in and have coffee, and then they will come out and take their baby and go away. And same with unlocked bikes in Copenhagen.
We
You just leave
did
your
see
bike,
that, but bikes
no one's gonna fuck with it.
bikes are locked. But yes, we
Oh, really?
did. We did see a random small human in a thing.
Just sitting outside of a shop.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's not an abandoned baby. That's just a mother that's in there shopping for lipstick.
Well, no, it wasn't
Right?
like they were in eyesight, and I mean,
Yeah. Okay.
it
But
was-
in Norway, they swear to God, they have the push cart and they just leave them outside. There's like 4 babies outside of a store and nobody fucks with it.
it's the bike
Google it.
with
It's a thing.
that cart on it. You probably see a few of them now here in the U.S. like a daycare, and this person's riding a bike, and there's this. It looks like half a boat on the front of the bike, and there's
Yeah.
4 kids in this thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah. The
It's
world's
just
a
different
wonderful
over there.
place. Yeah.
But yeah, travel I think is awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
the experiences over things are Once I got to Europe,
Well, that's
Yeah.
my ex-wife and I went to where the hell were we? I think we just wanted to get a free steak dinner. I think it was here in Sacramento. We just went to this place because they said, come here. We're gonna pitch you on a
timeshare.
timeshare, and you're gonna get a free dinner and a free night hotel. And we're like, okay, let's do it, but we're not buying. And thank God. But they made it really hard not to buy. But the selling point of the salesperson was like, do you remember the gift you got when you were 7 years old? Or do you remember when you were 7 years old and you went to Disneyland? And it's just, he just sets you up for, yeah, I remember Disneyland when I was 7, of course. So and then they launch into like, imagine being on Hawaii and your kids are there. They're going to remember it for the rest of their life. But my point is like, yeah.
And you'll be paying for it for the rest of your life.
You need to not buy stuff, but you need to buy experiences, right?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that like the essence of life?
Like, I don't know, maybe I'll go to Japan
Travel.
with Stacy.
There you go.
Yeah.
You like Japan.
Travel. I want to go to Thailand, and I want to go down that place where there's all the hookers. You know what I mean? There's literally like a street you walk down in Thailand, and it's all like open brothel, and they're all like, "Oh, come here, come here, come here." It's like, oh yeah, I would love to do that, but definitely not partake in anything. Just to
right.
Just for I would do it for the podcast.
I've seen those videos. Yeah.
Guys, I'm doing it for the podcast.
I'll just-
I would be like,
I'll
we
just
could get
settle
some
for the
clips out of it.
sushi.
We gotta put Brett's gonna send you on what is it called? What is it called when you send somebody out on mission or whatever? It's you're gonna go on the street with Patrick.
On the street with, yeah.
On the street with Patrick, and
I would gladly accept that assignment.
send him to the field and
Ask questions like Johnny on
Field
Fox.
yeah.
And now Patrick is at the doctor's office getting a heavy dose of antibiotics.
Was there anything else we want to ask our friend here?
How was the margarita?
It was delicious. Like, this is nothing like that fateful night in Rosarito, Ensenada in 1988. I was taped to a lawn chair in a garage with my head in one of those little igloo 6-pack coolers that I got from the school lock-in when I graduated from high school 2 months before. So
great margarita.
No cooler involved tonight.
Well, again, happy birthday.
Thank you so
Stacy.
much. Appreciate it.
Happy birthday.
Shawn, thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to have you here. Patrick, thank you for coming in from Sacramento. And Jean and her friend Ann, who's here as well. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And we will see you next week where we have Steve Philbrick on. He is an underwater photographer and scuba professional. So we'll see you then.
Yeah. And again, really quick, if there's any questions, right?
Yeah.
Pose
if there's
those
any
questions.
throw them ask them on the Facebook site. And Patrick
we got a Facebook. Yeah.
And
we got a website
really quick,
and a Facebook
what else is
Twitter.
new?
We should plug all that shit.
Yeah. What else is new?
And that's the thing. The website will be up shortly. So we have that, but we have email addresses. If you want to send us a switch, get us at info@thebarwithpodcast.com, and we'll talk about anything that you've got. If you're a band and want to get some exposure, give us a shout out. If you're a bartender or a waitress and have a great story, let us know, and we may actually talk about it here on the podcast. If you have questions,
we should promote local bands. June 6th, there's a show, right?
Absolutely. And Patrick, Jared Singer, he's got a band, the Montoya Machine, and they
Jared
will be
who?
Singer from the Jared Singer podcast. Hit us up at info@thebarwithpodcast.com. Thanks again.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Have a great night. We'll see you next week.
I'm glad this is the first time you guys have been more drunk than me.
Who's you guys?
Margaritaville, bitch.